What's up, Fusion? Hi. What's up, guys? All right. So, am I all right? Okay. So, I got a couple minutes to be in front of you guys. You guys know I already talk a lot, so I'm not going to talk that long, okay? I say that now, but if it goes long, forgive me. All right. Before I get into the message tonight, I do want to give a shout out to all of you guys, especially the upperclassmen. So when we started bringing Pulse to Fusion, I was introducing some of you, the upperclassmen to the younger classmen, and even some young classmen to the upperclassmen, vice versa. But you guys have done a phenomenal job of just embracing one another, like having conversations beyond just, hey, how you doing? Good to meet you. Like the Gaga tournaments and stuff like that you guys have been doing has been amazing. So I just want to give y'all a shout out and say, please continue to do that because people feel welcomed, all right? So when you guys make people feel welcome, they want to come back to Fusion and make this their home. So please continue being hospitable, and it is not going without notice, all right? We notice it, and we definitely thank you guys for that. All right, so we are continuing on in our Radical series, all right? How many people like the 90s decade? How many people like the 90s? Okay. All right, okay. By show of hands, how many people know the TV show Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. How many people know the TV show Saved by the Bell? All right. How many people know the TV show Full House? All right. How many people know the TV show Family Matters? All right. When you think of the TV show Family Matters, who's the first character that pops in your head? Yep. Steve Urkel. All right. So Steve Urkel is this kind of nerdy kid that has this catchphrase of did I do that? In this nasally tone. Does anybody know how to do it when the nasally tone? Did I? Yes, please, very loud.
Did I do that?
Yes, exactly. All right, so Steve Urkel says, did I do that? Every time he does something wrong. So he might have said something wrong, he might have done something wrong, but he always has this catchphrase in which he says this to let people know and let everybody know basically I just messed up. And I think we can identify with that. And because Steve Urkel was a nerdy kid, he got picked on sometimes in the early episodes. So in his early episodes, this bully comes wanting to do something to his locker. So Steve Urkel is always 18 steps ahead. So he has this alarm in his locker. So as the bully tries to get in his locker, this alarm goes off, he comes running and he confronts the bully. Not only did he confront the bully, he has these jabs getting back at him, and then the audience goes crazy because nobody likes the bully, right? Nobody wants to see the bigger person that's just trying to mess with the smaller person win. But Steve Urkel had a comeback, and everybody is extremely excited about that. So in this, did I do that? Comebacks for bullies. There's something to be learned about our words. The things that we say have an impact. They cause a reaction. So again, when Steve Urkel did his comeback against the bully, the whole audience erupted because there's something about words that are super powerful. So I'm asking a couple questions before we get into what we're talking about. Have you ever gotten angry because of someone's words lately? Let me see by raise of hands. My hand is up. Have you been hurt or embarrassed by someone's words recently? Okay. Have you said anything to anger, hurt, or embarrass someone else recently? And if you got siblings, yeah. Everybody with siblings yep, okay. All right. So I think we all know we've all been hurt by other people's words. We've all used words like weapons, right, to hurt others. So today we're going to talk about our words. Start off with a little story. Some of you heard the story before. So when I was in 7th grade, right, 12 years old, some of the ages of some of you guys in here, I was a class clown. Let me just put that out there. I was always making jokes. It was hard for me to be quiet in class. It wasn't hard. I just didn't do it all the time. Got on my teacher's nerves. It wasn't good, right? But then I heard, being in New York City, one of our favorite news channels is New York 1. So this news anchor was coming to our school, so I got super excited. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna behave today, right? To make sure I hear what this newscaster has to say. So I take my desk and I take my chair and I move it to the back of the classroom because I want to be away from my friends. I want to be away from all distractions so that I can be able to take in and ask all types of questions to this news anchor that comes in, right? So the news anchor comes in. My teacher okayed it because I asked my teacher. She said it was okay. So the news anchor comes in and I'm like, okay, it's about to go down. Like, he's about to tell me everything. I'm about to get so encouraged and enthused about everything. So he comes in and he's talking, I'm loving it. And then he looks at the class and goes like, hey, I don't want any of you guys to end up like this kid back there because he's headed for disaster. Yes, my mouth dropped too. In front of everybody, yes, he did say it. But he did, so immediately I'm like, what? There's nothing I did to warrant it. I would love to tell you guys that that was the first time that somebody said that to me, and I would also love to tell you that that was the last time that somebody said that to me, but it's not true. Those words impacted my life so much today that I'm telling you guys about it because I cannot forget it. Our words mean something. They hold so much weight. And that thing really, really got to me. So this brings us to what we're going to talk about in James, chapter 3, right? So we're going to read James chapter 3. We're going to take a look at the screens from the slides, and we're going to read this. This is from the Message. It says, a bit in the mouth of a horse controls the whole horse. A small rudder on a huge ship in the hands of a skilled captain sets a course in the face of the strongest winds. A word out of the mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. Go to the next slide. It only takes a spark, remember, to set off a forest fire. A careless or wrongly placed word out of your mouth can do that. By our speech, we can ruin the world, turn harmony to chaos, throw mud in a reputation, send the whole world up in smoke, and go up and smoke with it, smoke right from the pit. And then we can go to the next slide. So James goes through these three things talking about how powerful our words actually are. So anybody familiar with a bit in a horse's mouth? The bit is like, yes, it's like the metal thing that's in the horse's mouth. So the horse is like way more powerful than a human. But because of this small little metal piece in his mouth, something that's less powerful than a horse can actually steer it. All right, let's go to the next slide. Everybody know what the rudder is in the back of the plane? So you see the two like wing things up at the top, it's like right underneath it, it's like a little flap that just flaps like this. That little flap steers the entire airplane. Next slide. We look at this like, oh my goodness, a sparkler. This is amazing, it's nice, you know? One little spark can actually set a whole forest on fire. So just like the bit, just like the rudder, and just like the spark, our words, even though they may seem small and insignificant, can cause such huge damage, but it can also be a huge encouragement. So our words have so much power. And as James talks about this, Jesus also has some words to say about this too. So in this passage in Mark, some religious leaders showed up to exchange some words with Jesus. They didn't like the radical things that Jesus had to say, so they often picked fights with him. This time they tried to debate Jesus about the way his followers were eating. According to these leaders, Jesus' friends weren't following the religious rules around food. But let's see what Jesus had to say. So Mark 7:6-8 says, he replied, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites. As it is written, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions. So here, I don't know if you guys remember, the word hypocrite is also translated as the word actor. So when we call somebody a hypocrite, it's like, yo, you're portraying something that you're not. So Jesus is looking at these religious rulers saying like, yo, what's in your heart is foul. What's in your heart is foul. And then he goes on to say this. Next slide. He went on, what comes out of a person is what defiles them. For it is from within out of a person's heart that evil thoughts come, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and defile a person. So basically what Jesus is getting at, like literally what he just said, the words that we say are a reflection of what is actually in our hearts. We don't just say stuff just to say it. Sometimes we make mistakes, but generally what comes out of our mouth on a regular basis is what's actually on the inside. It's the things, bless you, it's the things that Jesus, I think, wants us to take a look at. Jesus has some really harsh words for the religious leaders because he calls them hypocrites, calls them these actors, because he knows people are watching them and wanting to be like them. But Jesus is giving them a truth that they need. Jesus doesn't want our words to be hypocritical. Jesus doesn't want us singing worship songs and Donovan teaching in front of you guys, and everything else out of my mouth and in my heart does not reflect him. Our words reflect our heart. Jesus reminds us to look at what's in our hearts because it's what's in our hearts that determines what comes out of our mouths. So if we are filled with greed and pride and jealousy, it's not just our words that we need to address, but it's our hearts. So both Jesus and James knew that this was true, that the words that we say matter because they're a reflection of who it is that we actually are. So we need to watch what we say and watch what's in our hearts. Can you guys imagine what your family would look like if we watched our words and asked Jesus to change our hearts? Can you guys imagine what your schools would look like if a couple of people just decided to do that? Could you imagine what York would look like if a couple of people? Could you imagine what the world would look like if a couple of people just decided to do that? So now the question is, do we want to see radical change? Radical people watch their words. I was going to ask you guys to say back to me some encouraging things that people have said to you. And I've had a lot of encouragement that people have said to me in my life. And there was a lot of encouragement that people have said to me literally today. But what emotions do you feel? I'm not asking, I just want you to think about it on the inside. What emotions do you feel when people encourage you? Have you ever had a time where somebody challenged you to be better, but for some reason when they did it, it didn't make you feel low, but it actually empowered you? Those are the types of words that we want to speak over people. So how do we do this, right? It's hard to tame our tongue. Sometimes it's hard to speak good things to people. Two things I want you guys to remember, and I'm going to remember for myself too. Spend extra time thinking before you speak. You don't always got to say the first thing that comes to your mind. And I'm talking to myself. Sometimes it just takes a couple seconds to ask yourself, do I really need to say this? Or what am I saying when I actually do say this? So take a pause to listen before we speak. The second one, forgive when you get hurt. We're all learning how to do this, all right? Some people aren't learning how to do this. So sometimes when people say hurtful things, the first thing that we need to do is just forgive them. And that's one of the hardest things to do. But you know what's even harder to do? To forgive yourself when you've done those things to other people. So not only should we forgive others for saying hurtful things to us, but we also need to forgive ourselves when we say hurtful things to other people. And try our absolute best to change what it is that we say. And I know I said I was going to say 2, but I'm going to say 3. Choose words that help. Choose words that help. Watching our words doesn't mean that we stay silent or only say nice things. Like Jesus, sometimes we need to say words that are true, and sometimes that'll make people uncomfortable. So, how do we know what to say? Trying to say words that help uplift, speak truth, or challenge others to be more like Jesus are words that will help. I'm going to close with this. I gave the same message in transit, right? So that's the 5th and the 6th graders. And I asked them, hey, guys, can you tell me some things that were encouraging for you? Words that people have said to you that made you feel really good about yourself. And it was at the 11 o'clock service, and only 2 kids like said anything. So, you could have gave them a little more time, Donovan, to think about something. But it made me think about this. What if the reason why it took them so long to answer the question was because they can't remember the last time that somebody said something encouraging to them? What if the reason why they couldn't respond was because they're not used to people saying kind words to them? Another thing, I'm going to say this as an adult that's in this room, we apologize because we have not been the greatest example of how to be kind with our words. You have watched believers fight with one another. You've heard what we said to each other. You've seen social media posts about all of the things. And I apologize on behalf of the older believers. We are sorry, and we need God to help us. But one thing I'm really excited about is you guys can actually show us how to live this out. So again, what's on the inside is what comes out of our mouth is a reflection on what's in the inside. And who can change hearts? Only Jesus.